I am Consciously Curious, a podcast for those that are searching for a career or cultivating meaning within their own space. We've had anesthesia providers to barbers, dog behaviorists to airline pilots, white collar to blue collar, entrepreneurs to passion projects. Life's too short to not produce meaningful work. Join me, Victor Chan, as we deep dive within various industries. I'd love to hear your feedback, so feel free to leave a comment. I hope you find some value within these conversations, but more importantly, I hope it sparks a meaning within your own space. Our next guest is one of the founders of the local nonprofit EcoShip, an organization that collects used shipping materials and redistributes them to small business owners for free. It was an insightful chat about what materials are actually not recyclable. Depending on your local protocols, those white and blue Amazon poly mailers or even bubble wrap containing low-density polyethylene or LDPE plastic are not considered recyclable, or how recyclables need to be rinsed and dried prior to tossing them. Imagine my surprise when you set up a public recycling station without any means to rinse out the product. Think about that next time you toss out your iced coffee, fruit smoothie, or juice. Please enjoy my conversation with Alex Plewa of EcoShip. We are supported by Remember, that's RMBR, a Chicago kombucha that's changing the social beverage game. I absolutely love their tagline, real memories, better rituals. Guys, I am currently in my booch era, and I noticed that as I was winding down the other night, I was reaching for a can of Remember instead of a beer. Out of all the non-alcoholic beverages to choose from, Remember is my go-to whether I'm working or out in a social setting. It stays true to its roots as an unpasteurized, raw, and organic kombucha without any added sugars, juices, or additives. The vibrant and unique colors of each flavor mirror the rich diversity within each can. You can find them in various bodegas and stores around the city, as well as on their website, drinkremember.com. That's DRINKRMBR.com. Cheers. We're live. Alex Plewa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
How's your morning going?
It's been pretty good. Yeah, for a Monday, you know.
Is 2024 going fast or slow for you? It's flying by for me.
It is flying by. It's the end of April, and we're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
We're a little behind on things, but yeah, pushing through.
I mentioned this in the DMs, but I had no idea there was a service like EcoShip. When you think about it, it's a very valuable service that you guys provide, and I'm curious where it all stemmed from. If you were always considerate of the environment and things like that, can you lay some foundation as far as like maybe some early moments of when you first started seeing like we need to take care of the planet? If that's kind of your main motivation for EcoShip, if that's too deep, we can start with the main motivation for EcoShip and how it started.
Yeah, definitely. I never really considered the environmental impact prior to starting EcoShip. But here's the thing. When I went to college, I was very much involved in conservation work.
All right.
So I did a lot of work in state parks and national parks. And then when I came to Chicago, there was nothing around here. The environmental world was still very, very tiny. And so there weren't a ton of groups. And so I slowly stepped back from that. I continued to travel, of course, and I still enjoyed hiking and camping.
Yeah.
But I really wasn't that involved in like conservation work and whatnot. I couldn't find that here.
So you gravitated towards the outdoors in general, right?
Yes.
Where are you from then, if you're not from Chicago?
I'm from Chicago.
You are from Chicago?
Am. Yes, I am. But I never camped or hiked before college.
Okay.
And so,
same.
Yeah.
What state parks kind of left a formative memory in your mind?
Well, I went to school at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay.
So you really had to drive over an hour to get to any state parks, kind of like Illinois.
Sure.
You know, you have to drive to Starved Rock or Mathiasen. So we had a couple around there. I joined the Outdoor Leadership Club, and that's how we started doing all these adventures.
Gotcha. Yeah. Would they do like multi-day or multi-night hikes and treks?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would they veer towards the west at all? Some parks in the west?
Mm-hmm.
Like Glacier?
So we actually went to Arches. That was one of our projects. And so we offered to do conservation work, and in return, they paid for our campgrounds, which is great for a college student that has no money.
Yeah. What specific conservation work did you guys end up doing?
We did invasive species removal.
Plants.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Was that hard work?
It was. Yes. It is very physical. So I give props to any park rangers that actually do it full time.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I'd be able to do it. I was excited about it for a while.
Okay. And so at Drake, what were you studying?
I was studying biology.
Okay.
So my goal was to head into forensics.
Whoa.
So when I first started, it was a lot of chemistry, biochem, and then I sort of started to lean more into the natural sciences.
Okay.
So I took like museum creation, which is really weird.
Like how to create an exhibit, or?
So we stuffed birds for museums.
Whoa.
So I did a lot of like different animal classes, and I never thought I'd really be into that. And
you were into it?
I really was. Yeah. It helps that the professors were also like very, very into it. So they, get you all excited. And at the end of the day, you're like, should I really be this excited about some birds?
So did you get like a behind the scenes of certain museums?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we worked with a lot of other species as well. And so I was able to kind of organize all of that, figure out how to preserve them for longer periods of time. But yeah, it was cool.
So I'm seeing a lot of options for you. And when you first did biology with forensics, was it for human forensics?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of put you in that direction in the first place?
I took a few forensics classes in high school, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had a pretty early start.
So you went to high school in Chicago. What high school? I
went to Lane Tech.
Nice. That's amazing. So what specifically in that forensics class was appealing?
Just the mysteries. I loved it.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a little bit different than the TV shows. It's very different for that part. But once again, I had a fantastic teacher who was able to actually recreate a lot of these scenes. And so we got a lot of hands-on experience. And instead of just, reading books about different methodologies and events, we actually got to experience it one-on-one. So a group of us would make the scene, and then the other group would come in and investigate.
Oh, wow. Would you ever make a trip to like a cadaver lab or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I think there were a few red lines that like they had to, check. So not red flags.
I get it. It was, it's a lot harder to
it's Chicago public schools too. So there's a lot that has to go into it.
Okay.
I don't know if the parents would be too thrilled either.
Sure.
Us kids were excited.
Yeah, right. If only. I remember like dissecting pigs and cats, but not to the extent of like creating and solving mysteries or anything like that. And so at what point at Drake did you start seeing forks in the road of like, I might not be going down the path of forensics anymore?
I'm really not I think honestly when I started doing more in-field work, that's when I started to realize.
With the leadership group?
With the leadership group and also the labs that I took. We did a lot of in the field. So we would go and observe various species or collect specimens, so plants and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to get a little bit more interested in that. But once again, I wasn't like, if I chose to go in that direction, I'd probably still be in Iowa or Nebraska.
Whoa.
So there weren't that many options in Chicago itself. Maybe like down south, yes. But I was very excited to get back into the city. I'm a city girl. I love it. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I remember taking one ecology class and doing a field trip to like the Indiana Dunes.
Yeah.
And just seeing the differences of the biology, the further away you went from like the lake or the actual dunes. I don't know, that was interesting to me. But did you have any like epiphany or realization of like how the perception of time per se, and I don't even know how to like put words to this. But if you like zoom in enough, like there's a whole nother world if you look close enough.
Yes.
And then
Yes. Time slows down very, very much. You forget that there's another world that exists.
Yeah.
And so you think you're in the field for about an hour, and then you
Right.
get back home and it's been 4 hours. So yes, and you have to form your own little world when you're out there.
Right.
I mean, there's so many calculations and observations that you're taking.
Yeah.
So it can get a little tedious as well if you don't kind of get into your head a little.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything, the pursuit of mastery, I think you have to go that deep to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the tail end of school for you, like what was going through your head I feel like a lot of grads these days, you're told and taught that you do certain things, you'll be guaranteed a pretty decent job. And I see a lot of frustration. And that being said, I still take it upon myself, or, don't blame anyone else for the lack of exploration that I should have been doing. So what were some things going on in your head at the tail end of school?
Yeah, obviously there was that pressure. I think more than anyone from my parents. My parents are immigrants.
Yeah. Okay.
So, they do expect you to go to college, and then they expect you to either continue schooling or get, a typical like government or corporate job.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them for that. They had to work their butts off when they first got here. They didn't have the language. They didn't have connections.
Did you always have that perspective? Because I know I didn't have that. I did blame them for a little bit.
No, I did. I really could not blame them.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a lot of frustrating conversations.
Yeah.
But
so would you consider yourself first gen? Like
yes.
what you were? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Same. What did they do? Just to get some perspective of like what tools were they working with to help you out?
So do you mean as in?
What did they do for work, and maybe what did they enjoy doing?
Yeah. So my dad owns his own construction company.
Nice.
Yeah. And then my mom was a teacher for a little bit.
Okay.
So when she first came here, she got another degree in English.
Okay.
And then continued to teach mostly in Polish schools.
Nice.
So I went to Polish school every single Saturday.
Okay.
But yeah, they wanted us to live comfortably as kids, and they were able to pull it off surprisingly. And I'm very grateful for it.
If you were to guess, who would say is a harder worker, your mom or your dad?
Oh my gosh. I hope they don't listen to this one. I think they both are in their own way. So my dad obviously works a more physically intense job. So when it comes to that, it's my dad. But my mom works harder to maintain, the family dynamic and everything else, like holds the household together.
And it's so hard because there's no monetary value on that.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
With your dad, did he have a team with him? Like it was his company, and did he have a team? So he was kind of like the general contractor, and he had, okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is to me a very well-rounded household or a well-rounded set of people to provide mentorship. To have someone familiar with entrepreneurism, the business side, the tax stuff, the certificates and the licenses, that's not intuitive. The IRS, the city, they don't make it easy. And then to have someone on the education side to be an effective communicator, you're very lucky.
Yeah. So that honestly, this is kind of like a full circle moment as to why I really, really started EcoShip and then continued doing it. So yes, as much as I love that we're in the sustainability world and in the environmental community, it comes with the territory. But for the most part, it's the small businesses that we're helping. And I really do just always acknowledge that my dad had a small business. And so all the hoops that he had to jump through, like you were saying, with the licensing, and there's so many rejections, so many different events that happened where, you know, for example, he didn't get paid because there wasn't like a solid contract, and he missed out on that because he didn't have like the legal help to make sure that he wasn't going to get screwed over.
Right. Exactly. So going back to having to make a decision, like you have this degree, this biology degree. I have a biology degree. I'm not using it. How, like, a lot of people have this sunk cost feeling of like, I put money and time into this and effort. Like, what happens if I don't use this? What was going on in your head as you were graduating?
So I decided that I was going to pursue forensics. I went with that. And the reason why was because I was able to do that through becoming a police officer. Okay. And so I started on that journey after graduation. Wow. But I couldn't fully commit to it. There was I don't know what it was. I mean, I was going to every test, and I honestly made it until the last step. But there was always just that little voice in my head that was telling me that this might not be it. Okay. So I was actually, I skipped a lot of tests, and so that just kept making the process longer for me, and I was instead still traveling. So I really missed the camping and hiking, you know, and I was still doing those travel trips a lot. And so I think things happen for a reason, definitely. And so the pandemic hit, and that's when all the programs just really started to slow down even more than they already were with the police academy. So yeah, I decided to just be a server. I was like, yeah.
In hospitality.
In hospitality.
Okay.
I was like, I get to choose my own schedule, and I still get to travel. And then I'll figure it out.
Yes. There's a lot of flexibility with hospitality, in the sense of to explore your own creative endeavors. With police, did you know someone in that industry?
I did. Okay. Yes. Okay. I had a few friends that had already gone through that process. So it was nice to get their perspective of what to expect. It's, it's scary going into
absolutely. It is not, especially
field.
In Chicago, it's not easy being a cop. To specifically get into forensics, like let's say I wanted to be a photographer for the fire department or for the police department. Does everyone have to go through the same academy?
No.
Oh.
No. So there was a different option, and that would have required me to move to Springfield for about 2 years. Oh. And that just was not what I was interested in. I didn't want to leave. I just got back to the city from being, in Des Moines, Iowa. And I didn't want to leave again. So I decided to go this route.
So ultimately, like both routes can lead to forensics.
Yeah. Okay. So the difference was that by going through the police department first, you get hands-on experience. Sure. And so you work one-on-one with a lot of crime scenes. Gotcha. With the Springfield option, it's classes. And yes, you get, some hands-on like opportunities here and there, but it's mostly classes.
The route you were going down, would you have had to spend time as like a B cop?
Oh, yes. Oh. Yeah. So it may have taken a little bit longer,
but in a way, I think it's important to get that perspective to see how they operate as well.
Right.
And then what were some experiences that led you to kind of think otherwise, that this might not be it?
A lot of my friends were burning out very quickly. Yeah. And by quickly, I mean after 2 years, which is not normal. So at that point, I wanted to go into a line of work that I was going to be passionate about, and I would enjoy it every single day, even if there were hard moments, because no matter what you do, you're always going to have those tough days. Yeah. But for someone to have a tough day after day after day, it's concerning.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, becoming a civil servant in any capacity should be fulfilling and rewarding. Yeah. And there's so many different things to tackle with specifically the police department. So, wow. Did you leave but without any options without thinking of what the next step might be?
Basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. First of all, wait, what did your parents think about joining the police academy? I'm
not sure. I think they were just happy that I was going to get a job.
was there a period of time where you were in limbo, where you were thinking about it, or did you jump straight to the academy upon graduation?
I jumped straight onto the opportunity.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that limbo didn't happen until I was already like in the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're in limbo. You're out of the academy. How long were you in the academy for?
So I was training to be in the academy. So I was taking all the exams first.
And you were delaying it because you were traveling. So in traveling, where were you going? Were these solo trips? Were these with friends?
With friends.
With friends?
So various national parks, Yellowstone. We went to Oregon and just hiked down the whole state.
Yeah.
New Mexico. So I saw some really cool things.
What's in New Mexico?
There are a lot of pueblos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then there's the Taos Ski Village, which is incredible. We hiked through 4 feet of snow.
Oh, wow.
Yes, definitely life-changing.
Now, are these like you would fly somewhere, rent a car, or do you live in a van? Like what
We
kind
would
of trips?
drive.
You would drive.
We would drive, and we had our camping gear. So we would set up. Yeah.
Are these like week-long trips? Several
yes.
week-long trips?
Yes. These would be 2 to 3 weeks.
And as far as money situation, is this like savings, or were you kind of finding odd jobs on the road?
Yeah, so it's definitely savings. Are you from Chicago?
I'm from Palatine, so
Okay.
I'm from the northwest suburbs. But
So-
ever since college, I stayed in the city.
Okay. What I like to tell a lot of my friends is that if you're from Chicago, you are hustling. If you don't work 2-3 jobs, you're not from Chicago.
Oh, okay. Now,
very-
do we say that because the cost of living is kind of rough?
I mean, yes, but I feel like all my friends have always had, that
Multiple,
many jobs.
yeah.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily know if it's, because they can't afford to live.
Yeah,
I
either
think
that
they just
or
like
maybe
to have,
maybe it's a creative endeavor. Maybe
it definitely
Yeah.
is that,
Okay.
and then just to have some fun money too.
Right. Okay. And so, but okay, so you were on savings, but did you how fiscally responsible were you? Like how conscious of like the money in your account? Like
Very
if you weren't
conscious.
making money and you were like spending money, you're like, all right, I'm gonna just eat a can of beans or something like
Yeah,
that.
very conscious. Great thing about camping is that you can definitely not spend a lot of money. I mean, campgrounds are $20 a night, and then you are eating a lot of canned food.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's budget-friendly trips.
And so, like, tell me about this, like, limbo phase. Like, would you describe it as like an identity crisis, or like not a crisis?
Definitely.
It could be more of an exploration phase.
Yeah.
Something that no one else besides you might understand. But who were some people, or what were some books or things that you were listening to that helped you find you?
Yeah, I think the reason why I started traveling more was because that's when I really got to think about what was going on in my life. I mean, when you're hiking 10 miles a day, you're not going to talk to your, friends while you're doing this hike. You're really struggling to get to that finish line, and you're really in your head. And so I had a lot of internal conversations with myself, and just figuring out, what the future might look like, looking at different plan A, plan B, plan C, etc.
What were some of those potential plans?
Definitely going back to school.
Okay.
That was one of the options I was looking into. Not ideal. I mean, school's expensive.
Like school for the sake of school, or like did you have like an idea
to get
of
a
what?
master's. I just wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be. I was thinking about business and marketing.
Okay.
And I think for the most part, the reason why was because a lot of my friends graduated with that degree and they were having jobs. And so I was comparing myself to a lot of my friends.
It's a good place to start,
hard,
at least.
right?
Yeah.
But it is a little bit difficult when, you're seeing them succeed and you're over here still trying to figure it out. So,
were these the same friends that were on these trips with you?
no.
Okay.
No. Different friends.
So what were the friends that were on the trip with you, were they in a similar situation? Were they trying to find themselves as well?
Yes, they still were. So those were actually my friends from college when I met them. And so we have, gone through a lot of similar situations and whatnot. The friends who, had jobs and whatnot, they were my Chicago friends. So people that I've known from elementary school, high school.
Wow.
the Polish community.
Gotcha. What were some other options besides school that you were contemplating?
Honestly, I was thinking about just really being full-time in the hospitality industry too.
Oh, you were already okay.
Yeah.
Wait, so did you get the server job before you went on these trips or after you came back?
So I was serving. Ever since college, I was serving at a country club for the summers. Yeah. So every time I came back for the summers, I would be at this country club because it was a great way to, work with kids my age and also make some good money. So I always had like my toes in the hospitality.
In the city or in the burbs?
In the city. Or it's like on the cusp. It's Harwood Heights, but it's like right on the cusp
side,
of like Jefferson Park. And,
nice. Yeah. That was probably a formative experience for me too. I worked at like a club called Inverness Golf Club. Okay. Out in Barrington, and the town's Inverness, but it's by like Barrington and all that area. So, I did everything except valet and caddy. But I used to shine shoes. I was a bag boy. I bussed tables, and I loved it. I kind of miss shining shoes, to be honest. Did you miss some of those experiences and you came to it, or it was kind of a safe backup?
It was a safe backup.
Yeah.
Of course, it was fun in the moment, but we're all growing up and you can't have that for the rest of your life.
When you came back home, were you still living at home?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I would still recommend live at home as long as you can.
I know. I tell all my friends. Some of them get a little embarrassed when
some of you want to
they
be
say that,
an adult, right? But like
it's not that fun.
It's not that fun. It will happen eventually. But if your parents are willing to help you out, and I know it's like you want your own time, you want your own space and things like that.
And it's hard when you went away for 4 years and you had your own space and then you have to come back. Yeah. That was really hard.
They're always in your hair. They're like, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? How was that actually? Like, were they giving you space? Were they checking in on you? Is it just like, I'll just have dinner with them and then I'm going back to my hole? Like, what was that like?
They're Polish immigrant parents, so they are not giving you space. No. Yeah, it was hard. So I was there for 2 years after graduation, and then I got super lucky. One of my older friends from actually the country club, she was looking for a roommate. So I moved out in 2020.
Okay.
Which I'm very glad because the pandemic just made it even worse. Well, it was like you couldn't go anywhere. And so you were truly stuck at home.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have a specific, because you're especially from the city, like a specific neighborhood you wanted to gravitate towards when you were looking for a place?
Not really. I mean, I think Logan Square was appealing for a little bit, but only because I used to hang out there a lot. Okay. And so I got familiar with that place. But aside from that, I was just ready to get out. So at that point, I did not have a neighborhood in mind.
Did the roommate have a neighborhood in mind?
She already was living in the place.
Oh,
so her roommate had just moved out a few months ago. And I don't even remember how we came in touch. I mean, we haven't spoken in like a year. So, but somehow maybe I had posted on social media and that's when she was like, hey.
I've done one of those before. That reminds me, I don't know if you have this similar perspective, but like sometimes people get crippled by the number of options. And I've heard people say the best decision is the decision that you make. And so sometimes you make that decision and it becomes the best decision because you tend to it and cultivate it. And so with that, you started serving again and having this freedom now. What would you end up doing in your free time?
I actually got back into volunteering. So I did a few cleanup clubs here and there. But for the most part, I was just working, Okay. I mean, you're on your own. You have to pay your own bills. Yeah. You need food. And so a lot of my hours were dedicated to working.
And kind of feeling too exhausted to explore other things afterwards. Yes. I tell the EMT class that from time to time, like there are certain positions that open up to you with your EMT license in the sense of it might be more money than you're ever used to. And it's easy to fall into a trap of complacency. Did you have a point of that realization of like, all I'm doing is hustling?
Yes.
I'm losing myself again.
Yes. You definitely get those, especially if you have a rough shift. I think that's when it really hits you hard. And then you sit in your car and you wonder, why am I doing this? But yeah, there were days where I would go from one job to another job, and you can only do that for so long before you truly just lose yourself and get burned out.
Yeah. I mean, it was because of this podcast that I've met lifelong hospitality workers, like industry professionals.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was raised with the belief of like, this is a high school job.
Yeah.
And I've met so many wonderful people that have made a living out of serving or hosting, or I don't know, they've made a living out of it. And I think not everyone has to have that hustle and grind mindset in the sense of like, I want to own my business one day.
Yeah.
Not everyone is like that. Not everyone's wired like that. Some people want to put in their hours, and if it helps them afford the lifestyle that they want, then that's it.
Exactly.
Right?
No, I truly appreciate hospitality workers. I tell everyone, I'm like, everyone should be required to serve at least 3 months.
Right.
But my parents were not happy with that either.
Yeah.
To them, a serving job is not a job.
Right.
It's a little bit embarrassing.
Sure.
Which is very unfortunate as well. Times are changing, and I think, based on where they're from and their age, they have a really hard time accepting the changes. But I do also have a ton of friends that are in hospitality, and they don't plan on leaving anytime soon. And they're able to afford so much, and they're living an amazing lifestyle. And so when you are happy, why change?
Yeah.
Why change anything?
The people that you met at the club, these members, did their lifestyle ever motivate or inspire you to chase certain things, or maybe like pursue certain paths?
Yeah, definitely.
Or like, did you ask them like, what do you do? Like,
yeah.
How did you get in here?
Yes. So I actually met one member. He's a tough cookie. We did not get along for the first 2 years. Definitely a lot of back and forth. But he started at a company. I don't think he ended up graduating high school from what I remember. Yeah, it was a very interesting story. But he started working at the company at about 16 or 17.
Okay.
And out of nowhere, after about 6 or 7 years, the CEO asked him to be right under him. So to help him make more executive decisions. And then in the next 2 years, he took over the company. And so he retired by 34. I was like, okay, great inspiration to have. I don't think that's going to happen in my case,
right.
But like.
So what were some traits, if he talked about it, or if you were to assume, that led him to to be groomed into that position?
I think a lot of individuals really get involved with like work drama, and they try to make friends while they're at work. And he's very much not like that at all. So he's there to do a job. He has his eyes set on that one goal, and he will accomplish it no matter what. And so I think he chose work over pleasure. Yeah. And so he told me he didn't really go out a lot. He didn't do any travel. Very different from me. But he made the right connections, obviously. And I mean, they saw that he was working 80 plus hours a week. And so that to them, screams, hey, like, I'm coming for your job.
That's so interesting. From my perspective, because it's like life is a game of relationships to some extent, right? Maybe not entertaining drama, but I think who you choose to be in business with and maintain personal relationships with, that's a lot of what makes life fulfilling. It can be very lonely. And so being good at maintaining relationships, because it's a two-way street too, that's interesting that he found himself in that position by being so steadfast in work rather than relationships. Were there any other members that stuck out or that inspired you? because I was very curious. I'm like, what do you do? Because like I got
Yeah.
to shadow, let's say, an anesthesiologist who was a member at the club. If I spent any more time at that club, I probably would have asked to shadow everyone, especially if I had a podcast back then. I'm
Right.
like, come on my podcast,
Yeah.
like let's talk.
Yeah. I think I was mostly intrigued with the women there.
Okay.
It is such a boys club. And so the men definitely overpower the women at a lot of these events. And, when they come by, the women are kind of in the background.
Sure.
So I got to hear a lot from the men and what they do, hobbies and whatnot, without even asking them. They just like to talk your ear off or just hang out by the bar. But I didn't really get to hear a lot of that from the women.
Okay.
And they had their own, cliques. So they didn't really
Yeah.
engage with the staff as much as the men would.
Okay.
But I did meet one, and she owns a massive construction company. Yeah, it's a male dominated field. So that already is like interesting enough that this woman is owning a construction company.
Yeah.
That is,
How did that happen?
I really don't even know. I think from what I remember, her dad actually was in construction, also owned his own business.
Gotcha.
And she actually learned from his mistakes. But she was very intrigued with what he was able to pull off with just like that small construction business. And so she began thinking, hey, what if I double or triple that? So hers, a lot of the small construction business companies, they're not union, and, they're very much, hey, we're going to do it our way.
Right.
But what she formed is union. And, so they have like those like specific, I guess, lawyers that help them out with any problems and whatnot. So
Yeah. Pros
you
and
can
cons.
Yes. Pros and cons.
So, would you say you were more or less inspired by like the entrepreneurs that were members there? If I were to remember, like there were like, I think, and it's so long ago, but like if I were to guess, like I think a lot of the members were entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So our club was actually made up of a lot of new money.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of these country clubs, you'll just see old money.
Yeah.
But ours was more new money. And that was definitely inspiring to me, hearing their stories and how they were able to make it.
Yeah. So kind of a younger crowd, almost still have like a blue collar vibe to it.
Definitely.
They probably appreciate hospitality more.
Yes.
So did that start turning the gears for you as far as like, should I go down the path of like business?
Of course. Yeah, of course. And I was always that person that didn't like working for someone.
Oh.
And I know a lot of people say that, but I really did not like to work for people. I always took it upon myself to start new projects and change things up. And even just at the country club, if something wasn't working, I would try different things and I would train a lot of the staff as well. And that's when I started to see like those traits in me that.
Were you ever met with pushback on something that you wanted to implement?
Of course.
Yeah.
It's the country club. Everyone's trying to be the boss. And you have to go through like multiple individuals before you can get anything done over there. But
so what were some creative endeavors that could potentially lead to monetary revenue at this time, if you were exploring some paths?
Definitely the events. So we did a lot of weddings, showers, birthdays, and I saw how much monetary value was in those events specifically.
Yeah.
And so, that definitely got me thinking as well. As a kid, I worked at a banquet hall too, so I was very familiar with that.
In what sense? So the catering side, the photography side, the event planning side?
All of it. I mean, if you do it right, you can make money off of everything by providing them with, a photographer, a videographer, the caterer, and then those individuals that you helped promote, they give you a little bit back in return.
Okay.
So I think that's the other thing that got me so intrigued by that was all the moving parts that went into event planning. It wasn't just the setup, and getting like some food out and putting some tables together. There was so much more that went into it.
So whenever there was a large event, would you kind of volunteer to become the venue coordinator or a planner or anything like that? Or like, is that the perspective you're coming from?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
Even though I was working like at the pool of the country club, the event group was separate, but I always asked to be a part on the staff.
Right.
And so if there were days where I was off on the pool and then there were some events coming up on those days, I would ask if I can work them just so I can pick up like those extra skills too.
Absolutely.
But I did go like that extra step to talk to the individual that was throwing the party and, hey, is there anything else that we can do? Is there any other way that we can set up for you? So,
yeah. So did this plant the seed for potentially your own planning company?
Of course.
Yeah.
That was always in the back of my head too.
Okay. So like out of everything in the event space, from having the actual venue to catering to photography to florals, like lighting, all that stuff, planning appealed to you the most?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a planner.
You're a planner.
I love my Excel sheets. I love my Google calendars. Anytime my friends are going on a trip, they know to just text me and I send them, my little like blog post that I have. I have exactly like all the restaurants that I went to, all the trails that I did, how long they were, the difficulty.
You're a facilitator, right? Like you like connecting people to things and other people.
Yeah.
And so how far did you get with that? Or do you do that right now? Like how far did you get with planning and things like that?
I really didn't get that far.
Okay.
At that point, the idea of EcoShip began to form.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm also planning. I do event planning for it. Right. So it all just connected.
So tell me then, if we're kind of getting closer to present day, like with EcoShip, what was like this? Where was the seed planted from for EcoShip?
Yeah, so it was my partner's e-commerce business.
Wow.
He had been doing it for a while now.
We're at pandemic times now?
Yes.
Okay.
So we met summer of 2020, and when I met him, he had already been in that e-commerce world. So he did a lot of reselling and closet buyouts, and he had been doing that for about 2 years.
That's interesting. Wait, reselling. The whole concept of arbitrage is amazing to me.
It is. And I've never heard of it before I met him.
Yeah, of like people see value in different things.
Right.
I see a lot of like refurbishing or renewing furniture and things like that as well. What specifically was he reselling?
He did electronics.
Wow.
And then with the closet buyouts, it was a lot of name brand clothing and home decor.
Oh, okay. So his own little thrift shop.
Yep. Yeah. He really did dip his toes in everything.
Yeah.
So while his focus was on the name brand clothing and home decor, he was in everything.
Did he have a physical space, or was it a storage unit
storage unit.
It was a storage unit?
Yeah. I mean, initially it was his parents' house because he was still living there.
Yeah.
But once we moved in together into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, that storage unit had to happen.
That's so funny. So with reselling, there's a lot of shipping supplies. Were you helping him at all with the reselling business?
No.
Oh, okay.
I would tag along and go to thrift stores because I found it very interesting.
Oh.
Like I said, I've never really been in that space before. I haven't really even heard of it. So I was actually learning from him, and I would just go and hang out. But yeah, even then he was already using shipping supplies to ship out his items.
Yeah.
And when I asked him, he told me that the reason why he did it was because shipping supplies are expensive.
Yeah.
And another part was he was an environmental major at Loyola University.
Oh, wow.
So already, he's thinking, hey, like, how can I reuse stuff too? And I mean, all of us shop online. All of us are getting in mailers and boxes. And so his family and his friends were getting those items in. And that's how he was getting all the materials that he needed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I know the Postal Service like will give you free boxes too.
Yeah, they actually got rid of that program.
What?
Yeah, so you can't just go into like USPS and grab boxes. And one of the reasons they stopped doing it was because people were trying to resell it on eBay, and it's like illegal. So yeah, so people were just taking way too much and ordering too much, and then they didn't know what to do with it.
Sure. Okay.
It was a lot of waste.
Yeah, I understand that. Wow. So yeah, it doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to be like your brand name on it. It's as long as it gets to A to B.
Yeah.
So he had this problem. How did you guys or you come to a potential solution?
Yeah, so he was starting to run out of materials, and I decided to reach out on, the Buy Nothing groups on Facebook.
Why is it called Buy Nothing versus like giveaway? Is it the same concept though? Is it the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know why
but it's called Buy Nothing. Okay.
Yeah. But you'll see like free box groups too. So I think I think Buy Nothing is actually a group that encompasses like the whole United States because there's so many different neighborhood groups, and they're in different states too.
Were you on the free section of like Craigslist as well?
Not Craigslist.
Oh, okay.
No, it was just Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
But specifically for shipping supplies?
Yeah. So I was like, hey, like maybe I'll try and post to see if anyone has these materials just lying around, There's so many other weird things on these pages. Who knows? And yeah, a lot of people had these materials. Like after 2 weeks, my closet was filled.
And these are things like, why aren't people just recycling them?
Because you can't.
So like specifically
the
what?
paper, okay, so the paper-based product, we'll start off easy with the paper.
Sure.
The cardboard boxes you can recycle. The paper, the packing paper, you can recycle. But then you get into all the plastic, and you can't recycle that in your blue bin.
Wait, I don't think many people know. I didn't know this.
Yeah,
they
don't. They don't.
Why not?
So the plastic that the packaging is made out of is LDPE plastic. So in simpler terms, it's a softer plastic that actually clogs up machinery that is made to recycle harder plastic, like your plastic water bottles, milk jugs, items like that.
So are these things being filtered out? Because I'm sure people are just accidentally, not even ignorantly, like just dumping them into the blue, thinking they're doing good, right?
Yeah. So when we started doing a lot of these tabling events, when we first started EcoShip, that's what everyone was telling us. Hey, I just throw them in my blue bin. Why can't I do that? And so that's when I started to look more into what was going on. And this is why our recycling rates are so low, because the education just isn't there. And it's not their fault. It's not your fault. It's not our fault at all. But yeah, you're right. No one really knows this. And so people are just putting it in the recycling bin thinking that, hey, maybe it will end up getting recycled, but not that type of plastic.
So if it wasn't for EcoShip, what would these people be doing? Like, what should they be doing with that plastic?
So
like we're thinking bubble wrap, right? Like
yeah, bubble wrap, and the white and blue mailers from Amazon.
Yeah,
that's all the same material.
Oh my god, yeah, because there's bubble wrap in that too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So obviously we're the first of its kind. We've tried looking to see if there are other organizations or even for-profit businesses that do what we do in the United States, and we haven't found anyone. And so obviously if there is no EcoShip, the next best thing that we recommend is just posting on Facebook Marketplace for free, because people are always looking. The reselling community has exploded over the pandemic. It really has. And so even if someone's not doing it full time, they're doing it part time, and they're not going to spend $20 on bubble wrap just to ship like a couple items out every month. That's what we obviously are promoting reuse. The next best option is to drop them off at like Mariano's or Jewel or Target.
They'll take it?
So they do like the soft, the grocery bags, like the plastic grocery bags. They have bins for those. And that program is now accepting the mailers and the bubble wrap.
I didn't know that either.
Yes. I know. And it sounds amazing because obviously there are Jewels and Targets like on every corner.
Yeah.
And so it's like super convenient for people.
I like how you said Jules.
Jewels. I don't know if it's a Chicago thing or a Polish thing.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Okay. It could be a Polish thing. I always thought it was a Chicago thing, but it could be a Polish thing.
Maybe it is a Chicago thing.
Maybe a Chicago Polish thing.
I know, right? I mean, we do have a massive community here. But yeah, I mean, going back to those bins, they just don't work. And
why don't they work?
So we've seen multiple posts in the past 2 years of people claiming that they would just see the employees take those bins and just dump them in with the rest of the landfill stuff. And I don't blame them to an extent. I mean, they have to do an extra job on top of what they already do.
Sure.
And so I can definitely see that frustration coming, especially if those bins are filling up at the rates that they are. But ABC just released a documentary. It's only 20 minutes, which is great. Like sometimes I have a short attention span. So like anytime I see 20 minutes, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
They actually just released a documentary that goes over, they attached the Apple tracker thing.
Yeah.
What are they called? Oh my gosh, why can't I think of it?
AirTag.
AirTags, yes. They put AirTags into some of these plastic bags and some of these bins to track, where they end up. And less than 7% actually ended up at the facility that they were supposed to be at.
Oh, no.
So at one point, it's like maybe those percentages aren't that accurate because like the AirTag could have gotten damaged or it could have just fallen off somewhere. But seeing as how low the recycling rates are, I'm not surprised, especially if it's one company that's doing it. Can you imagine one company dealing with every single person's plastic?
Yeah. So if what are the facilities that take the recycling do when they find this stuff?
The actual recycling facilities that deal with the blue bin stuff.
Yeah.
So they will, when they're sorting it and they see items like that, they just put it in the landfill.
Sorting it?
For the most part, it is humans.
Really?
Yeah. So luckily, there's a lot of AI that's being developed to help with that. Amazon just released their project that they sponsored that is developing AI that will
It's
sort
the least
recycling.
they could do.
I know. Don't even get me started. But for the most part, it is humans.
Okay.
Obviously they have, some systems that will sort initially, and they'll be able to pick out, the trash from the recycling. But the last step is a human sorter because machinery has flaws.
Well, I'm curious why any of these sorters have not created education resources or damn, I keep finding these things in here.
No, I know, but they're there to do one job.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wonder, is there anything else aside from that material that you feel like people should know to maybe not think that we're recycling and doing great things, but we're not?
Yeah, I actually learned a lot from my friends and family, just by, picking their brains and asking them how they recycle. For the most part, my friends didn't know that they had to clean out their containers before recycling.
Yeah.
And so I started to find out that was fairly common amongst people, that they could just leave,
so
food
whether it's a
residue
beverage
in
or
it.
food,
right? Yeah.
A rinse and clean.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, super, super clean, but there shouldn't be residue left. If there is any residue or any food, the whole bin is contaminated.
Seriously?
It's not just that one item that they choose out to throw out. It's the whole bin, which is why our recycling rates are so low.
So when it's contaminated, it becomes landfill.
Yes.
It becomes waste.
Landfill. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know. I know. It's such a doom and gloom conversation.
So I guess even if we were 100% recycling 100% correctly, if you know this, how much good does that actually do for the planet then? Because there's so many different avenues and perspectives to tackle to be environmentally friendly.
Yeah, there's actually a huge debate going on LinkedIn specifically, and there are two groups, and those are the individuals that are for recycling and those individuals that are anti-recycling. And so the ones that are anti-recycling, for the most part, they just really think that all our materials should be biodegradable at the end of the day. Unfortunately, making materials that are biodegradable, they're expensive. They're a lot more expensive, and sometimes more resources have to go into those than just like regular plastic items. Those individuals that are for recycling, they do believe that we should continue making items out of, plastic and glass, but we should incorporate more strict recycling systems. So, for example, a lot of countries in Europe or Japan, they have separate bins for everything. So you have your plastic, your glass, aluminum, paper. And so I think if we had more specific bins like that, people would be like, okay, hey, like I just see that this is just glass, so let me make sure I don't include like my Amazon mailer in there.
Even in the public, just like on neighborhood blocks, some do, some don't, but like I would say most don't have like even separate recycling and waste bins. But like, how we just talked about rinsing a drink, like how often does that happen? Like, you just finished your iced coffee, like you're gonna dump this plastic in. If you had the opportunity in recycling, but if that wasn't rinsed out, then that whole thing just becomes landfill.
Exactly. No, you're right, though. I mean, they're offering these bins in the public, but like if I'm drinking an iced coffee, where am I supposed to rinse it out, on the go? And so I'm that person that just, for the most part, I try to bring my own cups. But if I'm on the go and like I decide that, hey, last minute, I need a coffee, I'm not going to have my mug, So I do need that plastic cup.
So you take it all the way home until a place you can rinse it.
Home.
Yeah.
I know. I try my best.
How do you, if you, when do you start interjecting in, like, do you stop yourself from stopping other people from doing that? Because it can be frustrating to watch people do that, but even maybe more frustrating when you strike up a conversation with someone that doesn't want to have that conversation.
Yeah. It's, our thing from the beginning when we first started EcoShip was that we were never going to tell someone that they were doing something wrong. We are very, very much like that. And the reason why was because we were around so many other environmental groups that were constantly just posting negative posts like, hey, you guys are doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. When people see that, no one wants to be told that they're wrong.
Right.
That's the first thing. And so we're like, this is not how you address the issue. And so you have to give individuals other options, and you have to make them see that this is actually as easy as their normal routine. And so, yes, we've had conversations with individuals who just really aren't interested and don't want to have that conversation. And they just roll their eyes and they're like, this is all a scam. Which, I mean, they're a little bit right. But I think the great part about EcoShip is that we give these items to other individuals for reuse. And so that's what we tell them. And then we show them a list of all the businesses that we provided materials to. And that's when their ears perk up a little bit. Because we're not, telling them, hey, like you're doing this wrong, like you're not recycling this correctly. Instead, we give them options on where to drop off their materials and where it's going. So when they get to see that process, I think that's incredible.
Gotcha. So things like those white and blue Amazon poly mailers, like, are they reusable?
They
it's like
are
once
reusable.
You cut them.
Yes, I know. We get that question all the time. I actually had to make a TikTok on it.
Oh, great.
They are reusable. And one of the ways that resellers reuse it is just by folding over the tab and then you tape it shut.
Oh.
Super easy.
Oh.
Yeah. Resellers that do this full time, they actually get a, oh my gosh, what are they called? Like sealants. So heat sealers.
Okay.
And that's how they do it.
Seems a little plastic to
Yeah, they're super cheap and very affordable. And so we, recommend it. We are trying to get a few for EcoShip, though, so that we can offer them to our customers that come by. But for the most part, we've had a tremendous, positive impact on all of this. And people are responding positively, too. Just yesterday, I gave a reseller over 1,000 mailers. Yeah, they just stuff their whole car with these mailers. And so it's, we're not just collecting these items without a plan.
Yeah.
Like we do have individuals that use them, and it's really cool to see.
So tell me how, like, some of the first couple individuals or businesses that EcoShip started working with.
Gosh, it's my favorite story.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I want to hear it.
Yeah. So after my closet filled up, after the first 2 weeks, that's when we started to think, hey, maybe there are other businesses that might use these materials. And so I started doing a ton of outreach, which I found out I'm pretty good at. But I started just reaching out on Facebook, Instagram, by looking at different hashtags. And one of the first individuals that I connected with was this lady whose husband actually was making these wooden cutting boards. Mm. And so we would look for boxes that would fit those cutting boards specifically. And so we would just do like a huge post on all the groups and be like, hey, does anyone have these boxes in these dimensions? Obviously, like so much more complicated than it had to be, but early stages, right? But we would get these boxes and then drop them off with him. But It was his backstory. I mean, he was a chef at a restaurant, got laid off because of the pandemic. And he was like, I always loved working with wood, but I never had the time because I had to be at the restaurant all the time. And now he's doing it full time. Oh, really? I mean, he's selling at markets and he's selling out. I mean, that's impressive. Like if you're selling out all the time. Yeah. So yeah, that was our first customer, and
that's amazing. Remind me of Mark Towns from Edgewater Candles. Like his UPS delivery guy was like delivering more and more boxes of things to their place, and notice like you guys are getting pretty tight in here. You're gonna need a bigger space. And I feel like you have a similar sentiment with like you have an accurate pulse on like how people are growing in their respective businesses.
Definitely. Oh yes. Yeah, we've seen it, and you pick up, after a while, like you pick up on the timelines and you're like, okay, like they're getting ready, to have their own space at this point.
Right. So outside of individually procuring all these materials, when did it dawn on you to like become or like create drop-off centers and things like that to make it easier for people to relinquish themselves of some shipping materials?
Yeah, we started to realize that not a lot of people had cars in the city. And so we started reaching out. We created like our own Facebook group with like people who were interested in this project. And individuals actually offered their private homes to serve as drop-off points. Oh, wow. Which is
Did you take
amazing.
Them up on it?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we had 8 of them all over the city and then in suburbs as well. We had one in Algonquin. That was my friend over there. Right. And then they would just drop the items off at my apartment. Okay. And it was, a great system. It was incredible that so many individuals were excited to do this and they offered their time to do it more than anything. Right. I'm not used to that. I don't like asking people for help.
Not many people are. Yeah.
I'm just going to do it on my own. And it's not because I don't trust individuals. I just don't want to burden them.
Sure.
So I think that was one of the things that I've really had to set aside when working this nonprofit. I mean, it was my first time in the nonprofit world, or even like thinking about becoming a nonprofit.
So at this point, it's established. 501c?
No,
not yet.
Not yet. So yeah,
still a hobby at this point.
This is a hobby still. Yes, but we, the nonprofit talk is in the works. Okay. My partner decided that he was going to do the paperwork. Oh my gosh, thank you.
I can't imagine.
The paperwork is extensive. Yeah. I mean, it's doable. There's so many resources online. There are TikToks, YouTube videos. He's very much a YouTube guy. So, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of research that went into it. And he would actually just reach out to various attorneys that worked with nonprofits and just ask them a few questions. And, once they were like, okay, like, hey, I can't answer any more questions without setting up like a meeting, he'd be like, okay, that's fine. And then he'd move on to the next one.
Sure. So is it because of the time spent with each person or the depth of the question that requires a certain answer? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And so he eventually, submitted the paperwork. What was that? Yeah. What was the timeline with that process? Months, weeks?
Months.
Yeah.
So it took a while. I think from what I remember, 8 to 9 months.
Oh my God.
For everything to go through. Yeah. There's, I think Yeah, there are multiple processes. So like, even though, you do become that nonprofit, like you're set in, like federally you're set, you still have to get your 501c3 status and then like deal with the whole Illinois stuff because it's very much different from the federal.
Wow. I guess what was your main motivation to doing this as a nonprofit than a for-profit organization?
It's a great question. We get that asked all the time. Part of it was because I personally did not want to charge these small businesses anything. They go through so much and, they have to deal with so many other fees and they have to deal with finding a space, with figuring out how they're going to sell and if they need like to bring another person on board. And the last thing I wanted to do was charge them for these packing materials when so many people out there and so many companies are just throwing it out. And so that's where I was coming from more than anything. And my partner agreed with me too. I mean, we were looking at the for-profit model, but the other issue is that because we are a pretty new concept, no one we couldn't even get a price. Like, how much were we supposed to charge for used bubble wrap? That was, how are we going to determine that? Yeah. And so to me, it just seemed a little bit ridiculous. So we decided to go with the nonprofit model.
So then where was the money going to come from if it was nonprofit?
At first we thought it was going to be grants. We were, pretty determined that we were going to get grants. And quickly we realized that was not the case. Grants are very hard to come by unless you have a grant writer on your team or someone who really knows what they're doing. And instead, we were getting a lot of private donations.
Could you, is there like a grant database? There is?
Yes, there is.
Oh, and for that spans any industry, one?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, so you do have to buy a subscription for it, but it's worth it. Oh. It helps you narrow down the grants based on what your nonprofit does and where it's located. And so we finally were able to do that for this year.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So then there are some prospects for
yes,
grants.
definitely.
Did you hire a writer, or are you guys kind of doing it yourself?
So we're doing it ourselves. Oh. We're working with our board members as well.
Oh, nice.
And so we're able to kind of compile all that data. Depending on how, these applications go, we'll see if we have to bring someone on.
Sure.
That might be the case. But, it's so hard because you have to spend money to get
its own job, right?
Right.
What do you mean spend money?
You have to pay them. Grant writers are expensive.
So, but if you were to do it yourself, what are you learning about the process?
We are learning how to sell ourselves.
Oh.
How to sell what we're doing.
You have to show that you're worthy of receiving this money.
So one of the grants that we got rejected by, they told us, which I was surprised that they even gave us a reason to why they rejected us, because for the most part they just say, sorry, you just didn't pass. But they told us that our project wasn't interesting enough. And so we're dealing with that.
That's pretty novel.
It might not be interesting, but our planet is also choking on plastic, so it's fine. It's whatever. I'm over it. But yeah, looking back on our application, there were definitely a few paragraphs where I was like, okay, maybe I could have hyped us up a little bit more here, just to show what kind of an impact we've had. Because we've had a tremendous impact. Just looking at our numbers from last year alone, it's wild. And then for them to say that our product isn't interesting enough,
right? Right. And it's been 3 years, 4 years?
So I started the idea in 2021, and then we officially became a nonprofit in 2022.
Yeah, on your website there's a report, right? A 2022 report. How do you even get in contact with someone like that to assess some of the data points to even...
Oh, that's us.
What do you mean that's us?
We keep track of all of our data.
So it's not a third party group?
No.
Wow.
Yeah, we have to do it all on our own for now because we don't have the resources and to bring that third party
I guess to give pushback, what if someone says you're fudging the numbers? How well, you just have integrity, I'm sure, but it's just what if someone's these numbers could be faked?
Of course, I'm sure that there are individuals out there that do think we're faking the numbers, but I do have pictures of literally how full our trucks are after these events. I have the time and the days.
Okay.
I don't know. You're right though. Like we do have to look at other options on how to prove to individuals that we're not faking these numbers.
It's tough.
But I think when volunteers come by our storage unit and they see the amounts of mailers that are on our shelves, they know that
it's how do you get the donors or the group that you're applying for a grant from to see in person the actual work, the scale of work that you're actually accomplishing.
So a couple of them actually required videos, and so that was easy. That's an easy part where we're literally just able to take videos of our storage unit and show them like these bags, like there's so many of them. The tougher applications are the ones without videos. And so that's when we have to go into numbers. But even numbers can be hard for some people to visualize. So when we took a few of our numbers from last year, my friend actually came up with this. He was thinking about it. He's like, the amount of mailers that you collected last year were the height of 2 statues of liberties. And I was like, how did you even come up with that? He was like, well, I just like measured one of the mailers and I just multiplied it. And I was like, I know, but how do you even come up with that idea?
So then like when you did, you've been keeping track of the data, but like, I guess what metrics did you decide to measure?
Yeah, so we are still working on that, still trying to figure it out. It's such a unique thing because of the different types of materials that we collect. I mean, we're collecting mailers and then we're collecting like bubble wrap that takes up like even more space, or like air pillows that takes up double the space. And then you have bubble wrap that barely weighs anything and mailers that weigh a ton. And so we were going back and forth. We're like, what about we do like weight for mailers and then like gallons for bubble wrap and stuff like that. And so we're still in between that. We still don't know what the best way to do it is.
Yeah.
But right now it's just, we have uniform bags. And so however many we fill up, that's like the gallons that we get. And that's the easiest way after like a massive collection event or when we do pickups, because now we know that a huge U-Haul truck holds 52 of those bags. And so you just multiply. If it's full, you're assuming it's 52 bags.
I see. How did you choose the board that you have?
Yeah. So, once again, I was very hesitant to bring on individuals whom I didn't know. And it's hard. This is my baby. And so you're like, well, how do I make sure that these individuals actually believe in what we're doing and want to see us succeed and grow and aren't just here because it's a seat?
Right.
And the 2 board members that we chose, they've been at volunteer events. And I'm not saying like 1 or 2, like every single volunteer event.
It's a good sign.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh. Because, I mean, we're sorting mailers, we're sorting bubble wrap. It might not be that exciting, but like I said, the concept was just so brand new.
Yeah.
And they were just intrigued by it. And we are very grateful for them.
And these are strangers initially.
They are strangers, yeah.
How did they find you? Instagram? TikTok?
No. So there's a Facebook group called Chicago Environmentalists.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Yeah, so when we first started doing EcoShip, I started posting on there because that's where I got the most traction.
Nice.
Yes.
Very cool. With building a board, these are typically unpaid positions as well, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess like they have to be inherently motivated and aligned with the vision of the group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were just so ready to be on board. And I think that enthusiasm definitely calmed my nerves. And they've been a huge help. Even when it comes to like simple outreach or getting us more of that funding more than anything, so the different ideas.
It's having a conversation with them on like what role they might be able to fill.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Because we didn't really know. I mean, this was our first time even being a part of a nonprofit and starting it. And so we didn't even know how to run a board of directors, and
Right.
like, did everyone need their own title?
Because you
or
can hold
could everyone-
multiple
Right.
hats if you wanted to.
Yes, definitely. Especially with a startup,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
those lines are blurred for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been helpful to like have multiple voices. I think at the end of the day, no matter how lean the company, I think you have to have people that are not 100% agreeable, but also not so headstrong in their own vision.
Yeah.
Need some wiggle room.
Yes. And we were very lucky
Okay.
that with both of them, actually. And so, I did need that critiquing. I needed them to check my work and make sure that there weren't any flaws, going into like an event or, an interview with like a potential sponsor. And they've been able to do that. And it's funny because both their backgrounds, they both work in the corporate world. Wow. And so that's what they do there. And so they were able to bring those skills into our nonprofit.
Yeah. When you walk into a meeting with a potential sponsor, what are some things that you want to be prepared for prior to?
Yeah. So I think it depends on who the potential sponsor is. I think if it is another business, obviously I have my business stats ready to go, and just letting them know how many businesses we've helped up to date, how much money we've helped them save, and what their sponsorship will help us continue doing more than anything. But if it's someone else, if it's like an individual or like a different company, I think they are more interested about the environmental numbers. And so, how many materials we were able to divert and all of like the project plans.
Yeah. So it's tailored to the specific
Very
sponsor.
tailored.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Tell me about some of the earlier like events that you guys held. It could be fundraising. It could be drop off days. Like what were those like?
Yeah. So after we established a few of those drop-off points at people's private homes, we started doing farmers markets.
Wow.
And so we would table as a community partner once or twice a month, and then just tell people about our project. And that was when, EcoShip was still new. And so we were still trying to get the word out. And we got a lot of traction from those farmer market events. And
did you have to apply to be a vendor there, or just
yeah?
You
so
did? Okay.
yes. So luckily, for the most part, you do have to pay to table at these events, but a lot of the farmers markets offer a community table partnership, and so a nonprofit can apply for that, or like a political office if they just want to be there and show face.
Gotcha.
So we figured that out, and we're able to apply for a few of those.
So like the big ones like Wicker Park, Lincoln Park.
Yeah, we did Logan Square, Wicker Park, Roscoe Village, and Park Ridge.
Wow. I hear Evanston's pretty good too.
Really?
They're farmers markets.
Ooh, I haven't been yet.
Yeah, they're good. But yeah, I hear one of the last guests that came on, Pickled Prince.
Yep.
They do the big three as well.
Yeah. We met them at a farmer's market, actually.
Kind of. So yeah, with those farmers markets, just do a lap, maybe get some breakfast, get some lunch, and then get to meet the people behind these small businesses. And who doesn't need help with their shipping materials?
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely the networking opportunities were fantastic. But yeah, after the farmers markets, we thought that maybe we should have more public drop-off points. And so we decided to reach out to, well, actually we had businesses reach out to us first. So we had one in Logan Square and then one in Ravenswood, and they asked us if they could serve as a drop-off point. And so then that idea started to form. Hey, instead of, doing it at these people's private residences when there's, people have to have a code to enter, or they can only come during certain times. What if we partner with more businesses around the city? And that's when we started to add different drop-off points around the city, and we would do pickups. Obviously, none of it made any sense because, we would pick up from this point here and then from that point there. And now we have a more
now you need a driver.
system. Yes. That's part of the reason why my car's wheel fell off was because so many miles went into that car because of all these events and pickups. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get an EcoShip van.
We definitely do. Trust me, I know.
It made me think of, there's a local like composting company as well that does like pickup. Like
Waste Not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually partnered with them for April and May, and they are offering bubble wrap pickup to their customers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like little trial runs like that, just to see.
When you met with the first two businesses that wanted to become drop-off centers, like when meeting them, it's like, why? What was their incentive?
They just wanted to be part of the sustainability movement. It was really like gaining traction during the pandemic. And I think part of the reason was people had so much free time on their hands and they didn't really know what to do with it. So why not join a cleanup group? Why not go help out at the bird sanctuary on Montrose Beach, stuff like that. But yeah, they just wanted to be part of something new. And I mean, at the end of the day, our drop-off bins are also bringing in a ton of foot traffic into these stores. And so, for example, we are partnered with the Unwaste Shop in West Loop. And, there are a lot of people that we hear that will drop off at the store and will have never heard of a refill store, like the concept of it, because it is also a new concept.
Can you explain?
Yes.
Refill store?
Yes. So a refill store offers shampoo, dish soap, rice, beans, deodorant.
Wow.
And you bring in your own containers to fill it up. So instead of, buying all this plastic, a lot of like, obviously the body wash and the shampoo, it comes in plastic containers.
Right.
Instead of buying all of that from big box stores like Target and Walmart, you go to this little refill store, bring your like glass jar, plastic container, fill it up.
Is this their own brand or they're working with other brands?
They work with other brands.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, this is here in Chicago?
Yes, we have 3 of them. So we have the Eco Flamingo in Lincoln Square.
Oh my God.
The Refillery in Humboldt Park, and the Unwaste Shop in West Loop.
These are all separate brands.
These are separate stores.
Stores under the same brand? Is there a brand?
There is no brand.
There's no brand.
There is no brand. So the items that they get are from other companies.
So, but like, who's running the show?
It's a great question.
What?
Yeah, it's just a different concept.
That is a very different concept.
But only in the US. This has been around in Europe and Canada for years. So it was funny. I was actually, last year, I was on the phone with my friend from Canada and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's this new refill store. And she's like, we've had that for 10 years. I'm like, all right, never mind.
Of course you did.
Click. Yeah, so it's really cool. And they do, the other great thing is that because they're already, promoting these small businesses that provide like the shampoos and the food and the deodorants, they are also like very heavily engaged with their community. And so they offer like different workshops and other community events. And it's great because, we were able to connect them with some of these small business owners that can now do workshops at their event spaces. And so seeing like all these connections made, it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
But every time we think, we meet a new owner, like a small business owner, and we're like, hey, you'd be a great fit here. Like, let's connect. And it's constantly just networking. And
I see. Yeah, I'll try to pop my head in one of those.
Oh my gosh,
but
you definitely
should. With those, it's like, is it one person doesn't operate all 3? They're all different names.
Yes.
So then there's one person operating each of those, or like a group of people operating each of those. Very
but for the most part, they are getting their products from like the same,
like in a way, it's
individuals.
kind of like arbitrage. I wonder if the selling the refills had a higher, it's like, how do you stay open? You gotta make money somehow, unless they're all nonprofits.
No, they are for profit.
Right?
So
Isn't it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting
so
model.
you fill up your glass jar, you weigh it, and then you pay for.
Yeah. I know there are breweries like that as well. Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
I will
fun.
take a look. And you got to a point where you were receiving materials that people that weren't really in demand, right? So like you had to make the decision of like, we're not accepting these for now. And this is after you had the storage unit.
Yeah.
When you're running out of space.
Yeah.
What a growing pains, right?
Oh,
like,
yes.
You were probably weighing like, should we get another storage unit or do we got to start saying no to certain things?
Yeah. Yeah. My partner did the calculations and he said that once we were renting out this many storage units, it's time to like get a storefront or, something like that. So we just kept moving up and it was, oh my gosh, the individual that works at the storage unit that we're at, she's amazing. She's literally seen us from like day one. So she's worked with us, but she laughs every time we're like, we need a bigger one. But we started off with like a tiny one, that was basically the size of like a walk-in closet.
Okay.
And so my partner built out all the shelves. And once those filled up, we were starting to think, hey, like, do we have to cut back on like some of the items that we take? And we did, take off a few, which individuals aren't happy about that.
When they have no one to give it to?
Yeah, because
then what? Then like, I got to go back to recycling.
Exactly. And so, I completely understand that. And I feel for them, because you don't really have another option at that point. There's no backup, unfortunately, right now. So it is really tough, but we've been trying to work with them, but at the end of the day, our priority is our customers. And so if they don't need a certain item, then we're not going to continue collecting it.
Yeah. How did you come to the conclusion of certain things could be sold at a certain price? Because you resell these things.
No.
You don't resell these things because I know you said that earlier, but so
when we were deciding between the nonprofit and the for-profit model, the reason why we chose the nonprofit was because we decided to give these items for free because we couldn't figure out a way to price these materials.
I see.
There are so many different packaging materials. It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, there are like 5 different types of bubble wrap and then you have to price them accordingly.
I see.
Yeah. So there were just so many different
So
things.
I guess how do people claim certain items?
Yeah. So we have a marketplace, which I developed last year. And so every item that we have in our storage unit is on that marketplace. So, if we have, for example, like 20 bags of bubble wrap left, they get to see that number. That's how much is left. And they get to choose how much they need. After they check out, they schedule a time and date for pickup.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And it's been working.
It's been working. Yes. It took a while to get there, but it's been working great for the most part.
At this point, like what are some growing pains you're experiencing right now? And what do you think are some people, resources, or tools you're going to need to get to the next level? If you have an idea of what that next level could be.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we've been thinking about it for a while. It's difficult when we work with customers that need a ton of materials. And, sometimes it takes us like a week to sort through like all the pickups that we got because like there's so much of it. And like we're all trying to do other things as well on top of that. And so those items aren't listed on the marketplace by the time they like come pick up. And then when they pick up, they like take everything. And so it's like, sometimes we don't even have that opportunity to list those items on the market, which is a great problem to have. Right. Like, I'm so glad that we can just like offload it super quickly.
Yeah.
But
like, is it a cell phone picture? Is like, do you provide images? And like,
yes.
So
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I literally use like a craft brown piece of paper as the background. So yes, we're doing great. But in the future, I would just love to have a storefront or a warehouse, ideally, where people can just come in and choose what they need. And we're not picking these items out for them. They can grab what they think will fit their needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like you have the funds to have your own store, or would it be interesting and conducive to partner with, let's say, the refilling type model, or any other model, like to share space with another small business?
Right now, looking at how the marketplace is and how expensive things are, it definitely makes more sense to partner with someone.
Okay.
And so those are conversations that we do plan on having, and kind of scouting out different places to see if anyone even would be willing to offer that. Yeah. But it would be amazing if we could. I'm ready. I'm ready to get out of the storage unit. Like, I'm so ready. And I'm sure the workers there are going to be happy that we are out of there.
Sure. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you want to mention or manifest or put out there?
Honestly, the summer months are a great time to get involved with EcoShip because we do so many outdoor events.
Okay.
And there are 20 plus organizations at all of these events. And so not only do you get to hang out with us and learn about our mission, but you actually get to engage with the rest of the environmental community and like other small businesses that, for example, have picked up from us before. You know, we are always looking to expand. We just brought on an associate board. And so these were also individuals that started volunteering with us and have been at so many events. And we just try to get more individuals involved. And so anytime like we have monthly volunteer events, like 2 to 3 events every single month. We also do a social event every month. And so just trying to get in that new crowd, because everyone has ideas. Yeah. And so, you know, when we're running out of gas, we can just talk to like our associate board members and ask them, hey, what do you think? So you just never know who you'll meet at these events.
Is there a role on the board that you feel like could be filled if you met the right person? Or like, is there a role that could take some weight off your shoulders at the moment?
I mean, at this point, it's, you know, definitely an individual that would be able to find us a space to work out of. So someone who has those connections,
like a real estate agent.
Who knows? I don't know. I mean, a lot of real estate agents don't really know how to work with nonprofits, and that's another little niche that, you know, we are looking for them to be able to kind of convince like the building manager or that other tenant that, hey, this is a great idea to partner with a nonprofit. So it's another, you know, we have to sell ourselves. How do we sell ourselves again?
I hear you. Yeah. If people want to volunteer, drop off, or even get some supplies, like how can someone find you?
Yeah, so definitely on our website, ecoship.org. If you want to check out our upcoming events, we are on Instagram. It's definitely my favorite platform. We've gotten a lot of engagement through that. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Alex, appreciate the time. Thanks for sharing your journey. I'm always fascinated with the nonlinear path, and you guys are killing it.
Very nonlinear.
I love it. You guys are killing it, and keep it up for 2024. We'll be watching and hopefully participating. Thanks for teaching us about how effective recycling can be if we do it right. And for everyone else, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode. Stay curious.